Well, hello, everybody. Pekka, I wanted to give you a big shout out. I wanted to thank you very much for the nice post that you made. It's very cool. We love having you both in our audience and on our shows too. So it's great. Um, let's see. Richard Grace is on. Howdy, everybody. And Bergman Scooter and Norm Hughes, Mike Wiesner, Book Davies, Harold Locke. It's Fab Friday, that's right.
My name is Dante Loretta, and I'm the principal investigator of the OSIRIS-REx asteroid sample return mission. OSIRIS-REx is a mission to launch a robotic spacecraft to a near-Earth asteroid called Bennu, study it in great detail, select a site on the surface to send the spacecraft down to, grab a sample, and return it to Earth for scientific analysis. I'm very excited about OSIRIS-REx. It's a great adventure to explore an unknown world. We're going to get those first images back of a place that nobody has ever seen before. We're going to go down to the surface to grab this material and bring it back to Earth for scientific analysis. This is really a treasure of information about the history of our solar system, and will not only solve the scientific questions that we're asking today, but those that people will be asking for many generations into the future. Asteroid Bennu is a time capsule from the earliest stages of solar system evolution. We want to understand the origin of the Earth, the origin of the Moon, the other terrestrial planets, but the earliest histories of those bodies is wiped out. We had the late heavy bombardment 500 million years after solar system evolution, and that's what dominates the surface of the Moon. The Earth is a very active geologic body. You've got volcanoes, you've got earthquakes, you've got the hydrologic cycle. It's reworked the surface many, many times, and we worked very hard even to go back 3 billion years to understand what happened in that period of our planet's history. The asteroids record the earliest stages of the solar system, from even events that took place before our solar system formed, the stages of protostellar collapse and the formation of the protoplanetary disk, and then the formation of hydrated minerals and organic molecules in the first 10 million years of solar system history. So it really is a time capsule from the very dawn of the history of our solar system. So the prime reasons to go for an asteroid sample return mission, as opposed to just studying meteorites, has to do with the geologic context of the sample and the pristine nature of that material. For geologic context, we have a really hard time linking meteorites with individual asteroids or even asteroid types. So we really want to understand where this material is coming from in the solar system. And then when it comes to the pristine nature, meteorites come through our atmosphere at 20,000 miles per hour or more. Their surfaces are heated. They land on the surface of the Earth. They're contaminated by weathering on the planet. And then people handle them often in uncontrolled ways. So organic contamination is almost immediate. Bacteria get into the material and they start to consume and modify the organic distribution, especially the trace components that we're particularly interested in. So I look at OSIRIS-REx as kind of a forensic investigation where we've controlled the chain of evidence from the moment that material left the surface of the asteroid until it gets into the chemical laboratories and can really understand what it's made out of. Bennu was chosen as the target of the OSIRIS-REx mission based on both engineering constraints and science objectives. From an engineering perspective, we had to find an asteroid that was easy to get to and easy to return to the Earth from. And that constrained its orbit, particularly its orbit inclination, which is the plane between the asteroid's orbit and the plane of the Earth. And then we needed to think about the fact that we're a solar-powered spacecraft. We couldn't get too far out into the solar system. We also didn't want a complicated thermal control system. We couldn't get too close to the sun. So that constrained the size of the orbit. So with all of those constraints, we got down to a few dozen asteroids. And then we looked at spacecraft safety. We needed something that was kind of large and not spinning very rapidly, so that we could do our proximity operations and get the spacecraft down to the surface and get that sample. And then finally, after all of that, we had about 5 asteroids left. We wanted to go to the one with the highest scientific value. We're interested in the origin of water on the Earth, organic molecules that may have led to the origin of life. So we want to go to a carbonaceous asteroid that's recorded over 4.5 billion years of solar system history. So after all of those constraints were on the table and we looked at the millions of asteroids that are in the solar system, Bennu rose to the top as the optimum target for OSIRIS-REx. So OSIRIS-REx is a 7-year journey from launch to Earth return. Our launch window opens in September of 2016. We'll get to the asteroid about 2 years later in August of 2018. We'll stay there until March of 2021, and the samples will be returned to Earth in September of 2023. So getting into orbit around Bennu is a great challenge. No other mission in history has successfully placed a spacecraft into orbit around this small of a body. The gravity field is incredibly low, what we call 10 micro-Gs, or 1/100,000th of the gravity field of the Earth. So there's a lot of other forces that are acting on the spacecraft, like solar radiation pressure and thermal radiation from the surface of the asteroid. So we have to line up this trajectory very precisely and in a very specific plane relative to the sun and the asteroid's surface, because we want the radiation pressure from the sun to be the same at all times as we go around this asteroid. So we're what we call the Terminator Plane, basically flying over 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. on the asteroid surface all the time. Now that really constrains the kinds of observations we can make, because we're always looking at very long shadows when we're taking pictures on the surface of the asteroid. OSIRIS-REx arrives at Bennu in August of 2018, and our mission profile is designed to get us ever closer to the surface of the asteroid to understand the nature of its surface. What we really want to know is, can we get the spacecraft down to the point where we want to get the sample? We call that deliverability. If we reach that point, will the spacecraft remain safe? Meaning it can get away from the asteroid and still be functional, especially for returning the sample to the Earth. We call that a safety assessment. And then we also want to know, if we land on that spot or touch down on that spot, will we get a sample? We call that the sampleability assessment. So those are the key parameters that drive our observation planning of Bennu. And we're going to spend about 10 months globally mapping the asteroid and then performing detailed site reconnaissance of specific locations where we think we want to get the sample. The baseline plan is to acquire material in October of 2019, but we don't have to leave until March of 2021, so we have a lot of operational margin. If Bennu surprises us, and it almost certainly will, we're going to want that extra time to understand the nature of the asteroid, compare it against the capabilities of our spacecraft, and really make sure we get the perfect sampling maneuver in place. Obtaining the sample from the surface of Bennu is probably our greatest challenge, and it comes in many different forms. First of all, is getting to the spot where we want to get the material from. We're going to do all of this detailed mapping. We're going to go through a very rigorous selection process, and we're going to say that's the point where we want to go get the material from. And then the flight dynamics team is going to come in and say, well, we can't promise we're going to get you there, but we'll get you within, say, 25 meters of that location. So we have to understand everything around the site where we really want to get the sample from and make sure any one of those spots is the right place to go get the material. We also want to make sure it has high science value. So after we've done all of the engineering assessments of the asteroid surface, we hope science gets to come in and have a vote. We're interested in water, we're interested in organic material. We've got the OVIRS instrument, which is being built by the Goddard Space Flight Center, whose job it is to find the organic distribution on the surface of the asteroid. My dream is that we find something that's unique, that's not represented in our meteorite collections, and is really organic rich material on the surface of this asteroid that holds all kinds of scientific treasures about origin of life and organic molecular evolution in the solar system. We have learned a lot of information from previous missions to asteroids and comets. The Japanese Space Agency tried the first sample return with their Hayabusa mission, and we learned from that primarily to spend the time to characterize the asteroid and then practice and simulate your sampling maneuver many times over. We have a unique design where we put this TAGSAM device onto the surface of the asteroid, and then we blow down high pressure nitrogen gas to kind of agitate the soil and then basically scoop it up in a giant air filter. That whole process takes 5 seconds, so it's kind of get in, get the sample, and get out of there. And that's an important lesson from the Rosetta Philae landing. They wanted to land on the surface of the comet and do extended surface operations, but they didn't do that. They had a couple hardware failures. What the good news is from that is that instead they bounced once and then twice before coming to a final landing site on the surface of the comet. Our design is to bounce off the surface of the asteroid. In fact, we've got a spring in the forearm of our TAGSAM device, which is acting literally like a pogo stick to push us off the surface of the asteroid after we make that initial contact. So from everything that I've seen, trying to bounce off the surface of the asteroid is the easiest way to get that material. So once the sample is back on Earth, we transport it to the Astromaterials Curation Facility at the NASA Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. And this center has a long history of dealing with planetary materials. In fact, that's where all of the samples from the Apollo lunar sample return missions are stored. as well as the Stardust Comet Sample Return and many other collections of materials. So these folks are responsible for curating that material. OSIRIS-REx gets 25% of the return sample to achieve our science investigation, and 75% of the material is placed in long-term curation for the entire community for many decades into the future. Once the sample is back on Earth, it will be studied by laboratories all over the world. The Goddard Astrobiology Laboratory will play a central role in the organic molecular characterization, but eventually anybody in a qualified laboratory will be able to write a proposal to NASA to receive this material to pursue their own science investigation. We're archiving 75% of the return sample for future generations, in particular because analytical instruments and chemistry laboratories are constantly improving and evolving, and there'll be scientific investigations available in a decade or two that we don't even dream of right now. So it really is a scientific legacy for future generations.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Scott Roberts, and this is our 7th episode of MicroCosmos Voyages. And this show today, I promised that I would show one of my tardigrades. Now, I didn't realize that I had let my specimens dry out. You can see I had 2 jars of these. This is one of them right here. And it's all dried out. There's moss in there, but what happens is the tardigrade goes into like this, state of self-preservation. It makes like this glass-like cocoon around it. Okay, and once it's rehydrated, the tardigrade will wiggle out of its shell. Okay, and begin anew. And so it's just amazing. What these things are all about. I promised I would get one going, which I do have in there, and so let me just make sure. Okay, there it is. How cute! Yeah, very cute. Okay, so here we go. I'll give you a little peek here at, I can't remember what the name of this particular tardigrade is, but there it is. Now, tardigrades are in the news often. Most recently, SpaceX sent 5,000 up into space with some baby squid, apparently some sort of glow-in-the-dark squid. So I think that's interesting. The purpose of the experiment, I'm not sure, but it's all about astrobiology, and they want to assess how tardigrades will tolerate the space environment. And the research, they also want to know if the lack of gravity will affect the symbiotic relationships between the squid and beneficial microbes. Tardigrades are considered to be micro animals. You can see them with the naked eye, although they're very, very tiny. So it's best to use a microscope, biological microscope like this one. And here you can see this particular tardigrade has a piece of moss, and he's going to town on it. But you can he's upside down, okay, and his legs are kind of aimed at us. And so very interesting. And, if you watch for a while, you'll see that there's other microbes or, other things swimming around in literally just this drop of water. So I'm going to stop sharing here because what I want to go to next is, all of this is very cool. We'll come back to the tardigrade. What I wanted to go to next was to talk about, my microscope mentor. And her name is Anke Morbitzer, and Anke lives in Germany. She is one of the microscope experts at BRESSER Germany, and we have a BRESSER infinity microscope, which you can see behind me. So I have the whole thing set up with my little webcam aimed at the drop of water, so that you can see it when I go into. I can switch to the view here. There we go. So you can see now that I've got this with a 10 power microscope objective, and I'm not using a cover slip. I like to try to save the animals if I can by dumping them back into their little specimen jars. You put a slide on top. You're pretty much trapping them, because you usually put like some wax or something to kind of seal off the edges, so that you can observe the specimen longer. One of the things that often happens too, to me anyways, is I'll be watching so long and forget, I'll get busy doing something else. And, through dehydration, my little drop of water dehydrates, and so if they're paramecium or some other microorganism, that's pretty much, dooms them to oblivion, but not the tardigrade. The tardigrades can come back again and again. They're incredibly robust animals. And so I think that, there's still a lot for me to learn about tardigrades. The fact that they go to space semi-regularly, I think is so cool. Up next here, I'll show Anke, okay, my mentor here. This was on a trip that I made about 3 years ago, and she was training me on, different aspects of microscopes, and, trying to give, I understand telescopes very well and camera lenses very well, binoculars very well. Microscopes seem to be a little bit of a mystery to me, but I have since started to learn how the optical path works in a microscope. And, I still plan to try to make some microscope lenses the same way that Leeuwenhoek did with a bead of glass. That's going to be cool. But Anke promised to send me new images of, or new video that she's done. And so the first thing that we're going to go to is something called chaos amoeba. And the chaos amoeba, here, let me just focus on that. And you can see this thing is pretty slow moving, but this is considered a giant amoeba. It's also one of the most prevalent ones, although, you'll find that amoeba are still kind of rare to find out in the field. And then up next is a collection of rotifers. Now, rotifers are totally cool. They were discovered in, I think, in the late 1600s, maybe as late as, if I look at my notes here, Reverend John Harris described them in 1696. Leeuwenhoek did the same in 1703. But they are freshwater, often in freshwater. I guess there's a few saltwater ones. But they are considered to be plankton, and so there's different types, and we're going to see a couple of them here in the next videos here. But some of them are free swimming and considered planktonic. Okay, others move by inchworming along, and some of them are living inside of tubes or gelatinous holdfasts, as they're described. Attached to a substrate of some type. There are many different species of these, and still learning about them. But we're going to look at Anke's, amazing videos that she's done. Now, this one is called Colotheca. Let me bring this one up. Now, this thing looks, like a total alien, monster of some sort. You can see he's trying to capture this other organism here. He's got these tiny little hairs that's coming out. Oh, got something and ingested it right there. Now this one's anchored, okay? And he's pulling back, so this is how he captures his prey. And then the next ones, these are called Philodina, I think, if I got that pronounced correctly. And they, they're beautiful. I think that maybe Anke had used fluorescent microscopy to capture them. But here's a couple of different scenes here. Now, she described these as leech-like, okay? And what defines rotifers is, their kind of their mouths. They have these rotating, openings, and they were called wheel animalcules, and they were, really just a startling discovery when they found these things. That's a little bit more magnification there, actually a lot more. But excellent job of capturing these guys here. There was only 11 people here, 11 loyal people. That's right, Lucius. So actually, these videos get watched by a lot of other people kind of in rerun. Most of the videos that we have are, I don't know, they range in views from like maybe 600 or 700 up to the most viewed video that we have out of all of our series is something like 30,000. So it's all about sharing. Okay, so now this other type of rotifer is pronounced, I think it's pronounced limnaeus. Limnaeus, and this is two different views of them. Now these guys are living in tubes, okay? And so let's go to them. Okay, now you can see the tube that he's in. And she'll focus in a minute on the rotifers, I guess, portion that they described as a wheel. So she's focusing through. That's totally cool. And we've got an amoeba over here beside him. It's crowded in there sometimes. But really spectacular views. Here's another view here. Like almost no depth of field. You know, the depth of focus is really critical. Look at that. Look at all that detail. That's amazing. Lucius says, I was looking at my water from outside and I can see black stuff moving. Yeah, don't don't stick your finger in there and stick it in your mouth. Anyway, it's fun to look through the microscopes and to show you guys this stuff. We will have we have, of course, a whole lineup of shows waiting for you for next week. It's Friday now. I don't know if any of you are getting clear skies. We're getting like, weather's improving here. So we may have some clear skies going on tonight. Kent Martz actually went down to Bentonville, which is a short drive away from here, and they're going to be doing a program that they call First Fridays, which is an outreach program by NWA Space. And that organization is trying to build they're trying to build a science museum here in Northwest Arkansas, and the centerpiece of it is a 24-inch Berkshire refractor. This refractor was built in the early 1900s, and this organization saved the refractor. Explore Scientific helped to pay to ship it out here. So you can imagine this thing was set on, huge flat, flatbeds that were pulled by 3 semis to get it out here. I think that the weight of the entire instrument was something like 50,000 pounds. 24-inch refractor. It's big. It's huge. And we're doing our best to try to help them get money raised to build that that wonderful observatory and museum that they'd like to put here in Arkansas. Once we have it in place, and that may take a few years from now, but we will be announcing it. We'll be making live video from there as well, and we hope to have all of you come out for a real star party. So that would be a lot of fun. And until that time, I think that's it. So let's go back to my BRESSER science microscope, and we'll see if we can get another view of the tardigrade here. It has moved off just a little bit. Oh, there's another one. We got 2 of them. Okay, there's some important features here. You'll see that there's these clear, what look like exoskeletons or whatever, but that's the cocoon that they was keeping them alive while they were dried out, and there's a couple of them here. So, and let's see if I can find the other. There we go. Okay, so there's that one. And this one right here. fact, I think this one is trying to get out of his cocoon. You see how he's climbing? It takes a while. It takes a while for them to shed their skin. So, but anyways, from me and the tardigrades, you guys have a great weekend. And as my friend Jack Horkheimer would always say, you guys keep looking up, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Hey everybody, Scott Roberts here with Mike Hatch, and we're here at Explore Scientific Live, and we wanted to show you the BRESSER line of microscopes. Now we're just showing a few of them here. We've got microscopes that do fluorescence work, some used for metallurgy. A microscope like this can look at 3D objects, including things like circuit boards, or if you have insects or anything like that, this does an amazing job. A lot of these microscopes can also take a camera attachment, which is great.
Like these right here with the trinocular.
That's right, and we have a special camera that does that. Some of these other microscopes have a way to attach like your iPhone to them so that you can get images. This one right here has a built-in monitor, so it's pretty cool. The microscopic world is endlessly fascinating, just like astronomy is, and we hope that you take a look.